IPS leaders got pretty candid tonight, talking about a lack of equity in classrooms during the annual State of the District address. So for our big story tonight, we want to take a look into the issues that school leaders are seeing right now and the budget roadblocks that are in the way.
To end the fiction that excellence can exist without equity.
During the district's annual address, IPS Superintendent Alicia Johnson made it clear she wants to create a more equitable learning environment for all students.
I believe we have a chance to design afresh, to create new blueprints that celebrate our diversity and the possibility of all of our children.
Over the course of the last year and a half, the pandemic has deepened disparities among students, many that have existed for decades. According to a report from IUPUI, children in low-income homes living in Indianapolis in the 80s went on to earn an average of $27,000 a year, the same as their parents. And when you look at the district's current programs preparing students for college, only 41% of K through 8 students of color are enrolled, even though almost 3/4 of the district identify as students of color.
In the face of brutal facts, my confidence has never waned because I know what we can do. I know who we are as a team, as a community, as a family.
And these issues aren't new. Back in July, a group of IPS parents affiliated with Stand for Children presented a petition with more than 1,200 signatures asking for just and equitable schools.
Together, we have progress towards a more equitable future. Still, there is a lot more work to be done.
Stand for Children shared this statement with us after Wednesday's address, saying, "We applaud all the ways the board is working to make improvements and are grateful that IPS leadership is considering parent voices in the decisions." For 2 weeks, IPS will host a series of conversations across the city to gather feedback and perspectives on ways to improve the district.
IPS leaders point to budget constraints as one of the reasons they're now failing to meet the diverse needs of their students.
Somehow, children can have fundamentally different resources in their schools because they live 30 minutes apart. And the most astounding part of that is we accept it as normal.
A big issue? The district says funding from the state just hasn't kept up. Total tuition support across Indiana increased 21% since 2013-14, but it's IPS's share that went up a mere 6%.
Because much larger increases have gone to districts with significantly less poverty, a truly regressive pattern that confuses equality with equity.
IPS says it's seen an increase in costs the last few years after making crucial changes. We're talking added support for students in need, improving curriculums, and offering staff raises to attract and keep more teachers. But they say there's plenty more to do and not enough money to cover it.
We have to make systemic, structural changes now because our long-term budget simply is not sustainable.
IPS received $213 million in emergency federal funds during the pandemic, but the district says that can't support long-term budget changes because that money runs out in 3 years. Schools also received added financial support after a referendum a couple of years back, but say that only meets part of their need. And now they've started to cut costs in areas like transportation and energy management. The superintendent says if long-term budget issues aren't addressed, they'll be in the red by 2028. Now, we have the entire IPS State of the District address posted for you online right now. To see it, all you have to do is open up the WTHR app. And that wraps up tonight's big story.